ओंटारियो ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਡਗ ਫੋਰਡ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਮੰਗਲਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ओंटारियो ਵਾਸੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਖਾਤਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ $200 ਪਾਏ ਜਾਣਗੇ। ਇਸ ਐਲਾਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਇਸੇ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਲਈ शुक्रवार सवेरे ब्रैम्पटन दे विच प्रैस कॉन्फ्रेंस की गई, जिस दे विच ओंटारियो दे फाइनैंस मिनिस्टर अते उन्हां दे नाल मौजूदा ब्रैम्पटन दे विच MPP पहुंचे, जिन्हां दे वल्लों इस गलबात नूं लैके चर्चा की गई अते पत्रकारां वल्लों होर भी कुछ खास मुद्दिआं नूं लैके उन्हां नूं सवाल पूछे गए। ओंटारियो सरकार वल्लों सूबे दे लगभग 15 मिलियन लोकां नूं $200 दी छूट दा चैक भेजण दा ऐलान कीता गया है। इस नूं लैके ब्रैम्पटन विच शुक्रवार सवेरे प्रैस कॉन्फ्रेंस की गई, जिस विच ओंटारियो दे वित्त मंत्री पीटर बैथलिन फाल भी पहुंचे अते उन्हां दे नाल मिनिस्टर ऑफ ऑटो थैफ्ट अते बेल रिफॉर्म ग्रैहम मैकग्रेगर, ब्रैम्पटन ईस्ट तो MPP हरदीप गरेवाल अते ब्रैम्पटन वैस्ट तो MPP अमरजोत संधू मौजूद सन। इस मौके ते मिनिस्टर अते MPP साहिबाना वल्लों सारिआं नूं दिवाली अते बंदी छोड़ दिवस दीआं वधाइयां दित्तिआं गईआं। प्रैस कॉन्फ्रेंस विच ओंटारियो सरकार वल्लों दित्ते जाण वाले $200 दी गल कीती गई अते होर कई मुद्दिआं नूं लैके भी पत्रकारां वल्लों सवाल पूछे गए। इस मौके MPP अमरजोत संधू ने दस्सिआ कि ब्रैम्पटन वासिआं नूं एक होर हस्पताल दी सहूलत भी जल्द ही मिलेगी। इस नूं लैके भी उन्हां कहा कि जल्द ही प्रैस कॉन्फ्रेंस होवेगी अते नवें बन रहे हस्पताल नूं लैके भी कई ऐलान कीते जाणगे। आम लोगों ਦੀਆਂ ਲੋੜਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਰਾ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ओंटारियो ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਸਵਾਲ ਦਾ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿੰਦਿਆਂ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੇ ਕੀ ਕਿਹਾ, ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
Our government understands that the cost of living, the affordability crisis that we're living is impacting the vast majority of families in Ontario. The $200 taxpayer rebate check that we're going to be handing out to all taxpayers and children under 18 in Ontario will be coming early in the new year, and it's basically because our fiscal situation is in such good shape. Our revenues have been growing, and so we want to be able to continue to help families right across Ontario. We've been helping them since day one, whether it was cutting the gas tax cut, increasing the minimum wage, increasing the rebate for low individual family tax credit so that low-income workers pay the lowest personal income tax in Canada, taking tolls off the 412, the 418. By the way, the previous Liberal government put those tolls on. They increased taxes, they increased fees, they had their hands in your pocket. We're taking money and putting it back in your pocket where it should be, because people work hard in this province for that money.
ਮੰਤਰੀ ਅਤੇ MPP ਸਹਿਬਾਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ओंटारियो ਵਿੱਚ ਜੇਲ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਘਾਟ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਰਾ ਕਰਨ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਅਤੇ ਜ਼ਮਾਨਤ ਦੀਆਂ ਨੀਤੀਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਦਲਾਅ ਲਿਆਉਣ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਵੀ ਸਵਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ।
The federal government has not been tough on crime. That's been very clear. Our government has been tough on crime since day one. On the question, are there enough spaces? Yes, there are enough spaces, and in addition to that, we're building more correctional facilities. We're investing in infrastructure right across the province. In fact, $191 billion of capital for building infrastructure, which includes correctional facilities. We've been very tough on crime. We just purchased 5 new helicopters to help our officers go after the bad actors, which includes Peel Region. They're very grateful for getting the tools. We put more money into auto theft, significant amounts to combat auto theft. We put significant amount of money into combating guns and gangs. We will continue to advocate to the federal government for bail reform. And I think the minister can talk about that in a second. What I could also say is we're pushing the federal government, and they are responding, to do more work at the borders. They are responsible for our borders. So it's a team effort. There's a lot more to do.
As I said earlier, we used to hire about 1,400 police officers a year. Now that number is almost 2,100. We've got helicopters rolling out. We've got a bail compliance dashboard rolling out. We've got automatic license plate readers. We're hiring more judges, building more jails. We're doing everything we can from a provincial level to tackle this problem. We've seen auto theft go down in Ontario between 14% and 16%, depending on whose numbers you're looking at. But we've seen violent carjackings on the rise in many of our GTA jurisdictions. Frankly, in York Region and Peel Region, double what we had last year. In Toronto, that's about 60%. Part of the reason that we're seeing more violent crimes happening, as the minister identified, we have more guns on our street than we used to. Peel Police implemented Project Sledgehammer, the largest gun bust that they've ever done recently. And they identified that 90% of the crime guns that were found there came over the border.
ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਟੋ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਹਿੰਗੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਕਾਰਨ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਰਾਂ ਰੱਖਣੀਆਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਹਿੰਗੀਆਂ ਪੈ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਆਟੋ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੀ ਕੀ ਰਣਨੀਤੀ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ।
Look, we've been tackling auto insurance since day one. We've introduced reforms to provide more choice, competition and convenience for individuals when they choose auto insurance. That includes more optionality, which we propose, so that we keep the necessary parts of auto insurance but leave other parts as optional, which will have the impact of maybe slowing down the increase or even in some cases dropping the cost of insurance. I would say that right now auto theft is causing insurance premiums to go up, and that's why we have a minister in charge of auto theft. This has been a priority for this government. We're also looking at territorial ratings, for example. We have 11 pilots going on right now to test territorial ratings and provide reform on territorial ratings. So we continue to work with industry, we continue to work with consumer advocacy groups, because I think we would all agree, the cost of living is very high. That's why we're putting more money back into people's pockets. And part of that cost of living would include auto insurance. It's the price of gas at the pumps. That's why we're cutting the gas tax.
And we put that letter out with some no bail provisions. We put the 3-strike rule forward, and it's like every liberal, every lawyer, defense lawyer, every progressive lost their minds. And the reason why they lost their minds is because we're finally saying enough is enough. We're taking a tough on crime approach, and they just can't handle it. Well, you know what? You know who can't handle it? Ontario residents who are fed up with violent repeat offenders terrorizing their neighborhoods every day. We're not afraid of doing things that are hard. We're not afraid to stand up for victims. We're not afraid to say that we need bail reform, criminal code reform today.
ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਸ਼ੋਸ਼ਣ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਵੀ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ, ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਗੰਭੀਰ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਉੱਪਰ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ।
On many of the things you say, completely agree with you, and the level of crime in this province is unacceptable. This is a government that's taking action, has taken action. We have a premier who is supportive of going after the bad actors on many, many levels. And again, that's why we have a minister completely dedicated to this, a solicitor general. We're providing more funding, more resources, more boots on the ground. We're looking at processes and legislative reform to be able to combat this, because I think we would all agree the number one priority is to keep families safe. That's what's great about this country. We're never going to relent in that objective, and I will let the minister expand.
Yeah, thank you. And exactly what you said, Nitin, about the violent robberies. One of the things that we put in our letter was if you're charged with a violent robbery, either a home invasion or carjacking, you shouldn't get bail. You shouldn't be allowed to be out the next day, which is what the criminal code currently says, which is not only that you're supposed to get bail, but you're supposed to get bail within 24 hours. We've also put forward, we know that I know, you know, we all know that it's a small group of individuals that are committing the vast majority of crimes, right? That need to be locked up. And when you slap somebody on the wrist, say don't do it again, let them out into the community again, that doesn't stop anybody from committing more crime. What does stop somebody from committing more crime is locking them up, putting them in jail, keeping them behind bars.
The questions are coming to Ontario as if this, from the federal government and the federal representatives in our area, as if this problem only resides in Ontario. If you take a look across the country, in Vancouver and British Columbia, you see 60 criminals that are charged over 1,500 times. This isn't a problem that's just happening in the province of Ontario, it's a problem that's happening across Canada. And the only fix, like Minister McGregor said, is a change in the criminal code, because the judges cannot make decisions that are outside of the criminal code. So that would be our message to our federal representatives, as well as our representatives here in Brampton East, that make these claims on social media that the Ontario government needs to do more. Increasing the penalties isn't going to change anything. If you change the penalty from 10 years to 12 years to 15 years to 20 years, that's not going to change what's going to happen. We need to change the rate of conviction, and we need to ensure that they do not get bail reform, and the only way to do that is bring in those changes in the criminal code, so then we can apply those changes. If you make that one change for us, we promise we'll keep them behind bars. Thank you.
ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਤੋਂ ਕੈਮਰਾਮੈਨ ਰੀਤਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਗਰੇਵਾਲ ਦੀ ਖਾਸ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ ਹਮਦਰਦ ਟੀਵੀ ਦੇ ਲਈ।